Hello everyone. Today we have our special guest with us, Deepa Kiran. She is the founder of Story Arts Foundation, an award-winning storyteller, currently pursuing PhD in storytelling and English language teaching from IIT Madras. She also contributes through the TEDx talks, keynote speeches, webinars, and is also an actor, filmmaker, writer, speaker, curator for festivals and conferences. So we welcome you, ma'am, from the whole Bloggers Alliance family. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Neha. Namaste.
So, ma'am, we would love to know about your life journey and your success story. So, we would ask you a few questions if you may allow us.
Absolutely. I'm honored and delighted to be here with this community.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, you are the founder of Story Arts Foundation. So, can you please elaborate what it is all about and what is your role in that?
So, Story Arts Foundation almost, birthed itself. It happened by itself in a certain way. So, we are a registered trust based out of Hyderabad. We're 5 years old. We're entering our sixth year now. And it was born with the idea of wanting to work with specific sectors through storytelling. So, my work basically as an artist is telling stories. But in the field of art based education, I work with teachers and children, Neha, on how they can teach language, teach communication skills, all of this through the art of storytelling. So there was a very keen desire to work with state government schools, central government schools, with the non governmental sector. So the trust came about. So what we basically do through Story Arts Foundation is reach out to students, reach out to teachers who are in state government, central government, quasi government, or non governmental institutions, and train them on the art of storytelling, on how to use it for language teaching. So it's very exciting. The projects we got, we work with children who are from rural Telangana, and literally when they saw me and the volunteers, they would ask us, "Are you from America?" Because they had not met people from India who speak English. Coming from that space, within 15 days, those children were fighting to come on stage. I want to tell a joke in English. I want to sing a song in English, you know. And even 2000 teachers whom we trained on storytelling. So this has been a major part of our work through the foundation. One more objective of the foundation is, India is a country of so many oral traditions. आप देखोगे तो रामलीला, or you have Kavad in Rajasthan, you have Kathakalakshepam in Tamil Nadu. There are so many Yakshagana in Karnataka. I could go on and on. We have hundreds and hundreds of storytelling traditions, and some of them are dying due to lack of patronage and many other reasons. So, one of the attempts of our foundation is how can we collaborate with the oral traditional storytellers and do a little bit of experimentation to bring back interest in those art forms. They are beautiful. It's just the audience today understands a different kind of language. So we have done projects with the Manganyars of Rajasthan, with the leather puppeteers in with the leather puppeteers in Andhra Pradesh. So where they are performing, and in between, I am telling their story. So we were able to get children audience who usually may not come, who prefer animation and cartoon today. So reviving our oral traditions is also one of the agendas of our Story Arts Foundation. And when we get big projects, we get a lot of people to volunteer. We get a lot of young people with lots of fresh ideas. And we are going forward with that. One of our recent projects, we just got it, we're going to start, is called Grandmother's Tales. Jisme we have to collect stories that people have heard from their elders in the family. And these are in Indian languages. So some projects like this are going on with Story Arts Foundation.
Very impressive, ma'am. The way you connect the teaching with the storytelling as well as with the old traditions, it's really very impressive. So, ma'am, we wish you all the best for the same, for further journey. And ma'am, you have also made an award-winning documentary film. You have acted as a protagonist in the award-winning short film in Hindi. So can you please tell us more about it, what it is all about?
Yeah, so basically, as I said, I am a storytelling artist, which is I perform on stage. I stand there and tell stories orally. I also tell it with music and movement because I like that. So, inspired by Indian traditions. So, somehow through this connection, a little bit of theater happened. And through that connection, some people got to know about my performance skills, and they called me for an audition for a Hindi short film. I liked the storyline. It was very interesting about the journey of a housewife, how she loses her identity and then slowly finds it. So I auditioned, I cleared it, and I said, okay, let's try, this medium also. So that's how it started. I was very scared. I was very nervous. In fact, day one, when they said, I think she said action, but she didn't say roll for the camera. And I started my part, like I was so naive to acting, but it was a very supportive team, very supportive, and they had faith in me more than I had in myself. So just like any other exploration of mine, I just went with faith and an open mind to learn. And it turned out to be a great experience. And then it traveled to many festivals internationally, and also got the Dada Saheb Phalke for screenplay. So I'm very glad, young people, it was a very young team, all in their early 20s, writing and directing and producing. So that was a very beautiful experience. It's called Rimi. It's a short film in Hindi, and it will be out shortly. So I also realized that acting for camera is very different from telling stories on stage, and there was a big struggle for some time. But the best part, Neha, when I came back to storytelling after that project, I had some new insights, which came from acting in front of the camera. So in a way, it added to my work only. The other was making a documentary film, which also happened very accidentally. So in 2020, end of 2020, the pandemic was getting over. My teenage sons left home for their studies and all that, both of them together. And within 6 months, my father also passed away. So I was going through this phase where, the whole house felt empty, and there was so much of sense of loss and grieving. And then I just decided to go for this 45-day residential documentary filmmaking workshop in Ladakh. So one of my friends was part of the team, and the directors of that project also knew my work before, and they were like, come, come, come. So again, leap of faith. I was very scared. 45 days in the middle of my, I have a career, I have a profession, but I went there. I lived in a small village called Pyang in Ladakh. And this was a collaboration with Auroville Film Institute of Pondicherry, and also Himalayan Institute of Alternatives in Ladakh, which is founded by Sonam Wangchuk. So for those who forget the reference, he's the person who inspired the character of Phungsuk Wangdu in Three Idiots, the Amir Khan character. So the school is actually there. We were there in that space, and we were encouraged to go around and make cinema. Totally new for me, camera and visual medium of telling a story, a documentary film. But yeah, again, I ended up finding a beautiful story in a village in Likir. And what I finally understood, because my strength is writing and I can write essays, that a documentary film is a video essay.
Mhm.
So I could actually bring my essay writing skills to the larger picture. And then slowly I learned all this Adobe Premiere and editing and, some technical skills. But yeah, it was a very satisfying project. And Sanket Ray, the cinematographer, really understood what I wanted to do, how I wanted to make a very simple, gentle film. And yeah, that's how it happened. Yeah, I mean, the intention was to really understand documentary filmmaking, Neha. And then it ended up going to three international film festivals across India. It went for the Sony competition. And so then we were like, oh, okay, we have made something really valuable, perhaps. And it's encouraging us to make more cinema. But my first love comes back to storytelling, to being on stage and telling my audience.
Great, ma'am. Lovely. And the way you explain your experience also, that is in the form of storytelling. So it very lovely. Like, it is very good to hear. And ma'am, you are also a renowned TEDx speaker. So can you tell some of your favorite topics of discussion that you discuss about?
Yeah. So the first time I was invited, I thought I'm supposed to tell my life story, because that's what I'd seen a lot of TEDx speakers speak about. However, the AMIT University team came back and said, the times we live in, everything is getting so polarized in the world. I mean, this is not about right wing, left wing, nothing, just the world itself at so many different levels is getting polarized. So can you talk about the role of storytelling from that space? And I really thought that was wonderful, because that's something I believe. I believe storytelling can offer us connections if we really understand storytelling. So that was my first talk. It was on role of storytelling in our lives.
Mhm.
So really trying to see the stories, trying to understand the stories, trying to understand who is making the stories, who is telling the stories, how are we seeing the stories, from which lens are we seeing the stories. Yeah, that was the first talk about. And I worked on it for more than 3 months, I remember, because it was for young people. And I was like, I hope these stories are reaching. I told it through stories. So,
Mhm.
yes, the second one, I focused on the educational aspect.
Mhm.
How does it end up serving as an educational tool? More with the idea of the strength of stories is they do not tell, they reveal,
Mhm.
you know. So, usually an instruction like do this is something that even a 2-year-old child, if you say don't touch that, they will go and touch, right? So how stories don't tell you like don't touch that, don't do this, but they allow you to arrive at the truth. And so all the learning possibilities in storytelling, that was the second TEDx talk about. The third time I connected it with my learnings in life, like you just said, looking at life as stories.
Mhm.
And these are all finally stories we make up.
Yeah.
Matlab, this is my version of what happened in my life,
Yes.
right? Somebody else can give some other version. And
Mhm.
I myself can change my version when I want to, if I want to. So it was from that idea. For example, there was one version about a story related to my mother.
Mhm.
An interviewer asked me, what is the contribution of your parents towards your becoming a storyteller? And I always say that, oh, my father did this. My father taught me stories. My father took me to the bookstore. And mother, he said, mother, mother, nothing, nothing. My mother's not contributed. He kept on pushing. And finally, I said, yeah, she's the one who brought dance into my life. She was the one who took me for dance. And if you've seen my storytelling, it is very based on Indian classical dance. My strength of my expressions and the style of adding music, this and that. And then he said, huh, see, you were saying your mother's not contributed. So my third TEDx talk was really about what are the stories we are telling ourselves, and to look at our own stories, how true they are, or how we can tweak them just for our own benefit whenever it is helping a situation positively. Yeah. So, yeah, anything around the framework of stories, its learning possibilities, the possibilities it has for our growth, for our blossoming. I think I end up speaking on those more often than not.
Mhm. Sure, ma'am. Great. And I'm also, as you talked about the storytelling, so can you tell us what is the future of storytelling and its importance in today's world?
Yeah, I'm sure that you've also, come across this word so much
Mhm.
nowadays. It's like IT in the 90s, 90s was the IT boom, and now it's the storytellers boom. So, and by storytelling, I'm using the definition in a very wide way, So, storytelling is actually telling stories on stage. It is telling by making a documentary film. It is writing. It is stand-up comedy. It is acting. It is fiction film. Yeah, all of these are storytelling. Insta reels, advertisements,
Every field has
media,
storytelling.
news.
Yeah.
Yes. Corporate leadership today,
Mhm.
right? Corporate communications. So now we are seeing a time where people are definitely saying that, okay, statistics, numbers, PowerPoint presentations, okay, you know, where's the heart of this whole thing?
Mhm.
They're willing to hear that one story that will just influence them deeply because really that's the truth.
Mhm.
We all think that we are logical and we function from rationale, but deep down we respond from emotion,
Mhm.
and then we justify with some rationale, that, the decisions we take. So it's very helpful. So today it's a booming space, storytelling. Whether it is storytellers, I remember that when I was a storyteller, we were countable numbers. When I started off, we were countable numbers in the country,
Mhm.
and now we are in hundreds and more. uh, and across the world, the number of storytellers as artists performers has increased. And even mm, in other fields, let's say today YouTubers, those who are on Insta or TikTok, they're all telling stories, right? The democracy of being able to tell, We now have mobile phones. It's so easy to edit. You don't have to go and hire some videographer and hire the editing services. Ghar mein baithe baithe, just sitting right in the house, a person can tell their stories on multimedia. Bloggers Alliance, people can just type from their homes and their stories are there in text version out there online for everybody to access. So it is a great time. I see a great future for storytelling, and especially if we use it in spaces that can grow people, that can connect us to each other, that can help us appreciate our differences, and remember that there will always be multiple stories, whether we like it or not. There will be contradictory stories, whether we like it or not. And how do we go forward with those? Then it's a great time for storytelling to, just zoom ahead. Yeah.
Indeed, ma'am, storytelling has to play a major role nowadays. And also, very beautifully told by you that humans are driven by emotions, and emotions somewhere lie in the storytelling. That is really true. And ma'am, also talking about the further phase in your life. So, you were also a freelance writer for The Hindu, and you have written several national and international journals. So, what were the major topics you talked about in that writings?
Yeah, The Hindu happened a very long time ago when I was specifically writing on topics related to management.
Mhm.
However, further on, most of my writing has been for educational journals, Neha, like for the NCERT.
Mhm.
So, where I wrote on storytelling as the educational tool. How can you teach? How can teachers in the classroom teach English, especially through storytelling? In countries like India, leave the metros, okay, Delhi, Bombay, and all the high end schools in the metros. The rest of the suburban spaces and all rural India, they all have a common problem of struggling English teachers. The teacher doesn't know English, but she has to teach English. That's the ground reality. And how can storytelling contribute to this teacher, where she herself comes from a multilingual home, the classroom is multilingual, and neither of them are born in an English speaking country, what we call non native speakers,
Mhm.
right? So it is a big struggle. So there I wrote about that. Then for another magazine, it's a journal called Teacher Plus. It's a national education journal. For I had a column, monthly column for 1 year, where every month I would give one story for the teacher and tips on how to tell that story. And each time I covered a different concept, from mathematics to finance to economics. So how different things can be taught through storytelling. So one little story and some tips. Then I've written for the Japan alternatives learning, where again, it was on a topic that's close to my heart, which is how the teacher, by telling stories, she gets an opportunity to listen to the child. She can become an empathetic listener, because very often children don't speak in the class. If we ask them, speak up, even if they're shy, they're quiet, come on, speak up, they may not speak. But if we tell a story, suddenly they start speaking in the classroom. That's because they feel that, oh, this person wants to take time out to talk to me.
Mhm.
So they also feel like taking time out to talk to us back. So that was again one of my topics. So broadly, these are the topics. It all connects with the storytelling and its role in the classroom, in the teaching of English language, in the teaching of concepts, in growth and development of the socio-emotional intelligence of the child.
Mhm. So, ma'am, also, as you talked about the English language, so what are the advantages of using storytelling in teaching English and the life skills?
Oh, many, 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 many. So many. Yeah. And these are things that I've discovered literally from experience, because I started teaching in 2000. I finished my master's, and that time many of my friends had done B.Ed and all, Neha. And I would tell them that I'll do anything but teach.
Mhm.
So the first job that life offered me was teaching. And I taught in Kendra Vidyalaya. I must have been 22, 23. My students were 16, 17, few years younger than me and few feet taller than me. They
Mhm.
wouldn't come to class. So I had to request them, ki, please, aa jao.
Mhm.
So my classroom experience started from there of teaching English. And over the years, I found again and again that for so many different aspects of it, storytelling works. straight away motivation, so if they're not interested in English, just telling stories motivates them and gets them interested in the language, gets them interested in wanting to listen to you first, starting from the starting point, right? It also takes away their fear,
Mhm.
because they may be scared of the big words and the complicated language, but stories are very simple and stories are fun. So it takes away their fear. Also, it not only motivates, it takes away their fear. Is a very big thing with language learning, because language के लिए बोलना पड़ता है. You have to speak it. If you're scared, you won't speak it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So these two. And then in language we have the four uh, skills: listening, speaking, reading, writing. And we have two elements: vocabulary and grammar.
Mhm.
Now, listening, you can understand. When you listen to stories, obviously your listening skill will improve. Yeah. Speaking, you get a model. You see somebody speak the story, you feel like telling the story to somebody. you
Mhm.
you listen to a textbook, you don't feel like going and telling the textbook to somebody, right? So it definitely creates more opportunities for speaking skill also.
Mhm.
I'm just giving simple examples. Reading, again, if you tell a classroom of children one story, and then you say, oh, by the way, I have the book in which the story is there, do you want to look at it?
Mhm.
100% they want to look at it. They may not want to read it. These are two different words. Okay. So we make them look at it because they're curious, they have heard the story, now they want to know, like, what is it like in a book
Mhm.
version. So it's a very good window into reading. We tell them to look at it, and then slowly we'll be like, oh, this word, okay, that meaning, and get them to read the text. So it's a very nice, beautiful way to get them to read, to try and write a little. Uh, and of course, you get new words, vocabulary improves, you get grammar structures, because
Mhm.
you hear some words as a dialogue and you simply repeat the dialogue. You simply repeat the dialogue. So it's so much fun. So everything that language wants to develop in a child can happen through storytelling. It's all available. It's just that we have to go about it in a semi-structured process, which is what we train teachers on. But it's all there. Many, many things can be taught through storytelling, can be developed. Confidence can be developed. Memory can be developed. Yeah, many socio-emotional intelligence aspects can be, interpersonal communication skills can be developed through storytelling. Yeah.
Great, ma'am. Really very interesting to know how storytelling helps the students in real life. Also, ma'am, you have done many international assignments. So, can you tell us something about your international storytelling festival experiences?
Yeah, sure. They've all come as a surprise to me, the first and foremost. Not that I did not dream. It is the dream of, a storytelling artist to want to perform around the world. But the opportunities which came, they just came out of the blue, over email, or, yeah, mostly over email. There would be a request. And each time I went extremely nervous, because I didn't know what to expect. But each and every experience has really grown my confidence, taught me many, many, many things about communication, about culture, about simplifying yet being beautiful and powerful. Because especially when you're in another country, you really don't know, what kind of language, what kind of level of language will reach. So best to keep it simple. But if you keep it simple and then it gets boring, that's a problem. So, how to keep it simple yet beautiful is the challenge. And audience anywhere, finally, a story is about emotions, right? So, there is one, that's my biggest learning, there is universality of emotions. Everyone experiences similar emotions, end of the day, whichever part of the world they are. So, if you can manage to connect with that, then you can connect with government officials in Iran. You can connect with pre primary children in South Africa. You can connect with children in an orphanage, which is under the flyover on the road in Indonesia. You can connect with full literati audience like Library of Scotland in Edinburgh, where they are all literature people, and it's a different audience altogether. Each of these connections can all happen when the common core is human emotion, simple language, but beautiful, and finding that connection. So that's been my biggest learning. And like my sons always tell me, they say, Mama, you go without any expectation, which is true. I don't read up too much about that country or that festival. I just go with an open mind. Like Iran, everybody was like, "Ah, you're going to Iran? Oh, you're going to Iran? Are you not scared?" Really, if you go there, you will never want to come back. Um, what media tells us and what is actually there, very, very different. Iran has such a rich storytelling culture, Neha. They actually have 1,000 centers across Iran called Qanun, which are house of joy, where children, just any child, can walk in and learn to tell stories, do artwork, learn musical instruments. They have a very rich storytelling tradition and they've kept it alive so beautifully. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of learnings I can say. And yes, each time my confidence definitely grew. And I'm also very, very thankful to the people who have been so supportive, the audience, who have been after all, you are someone from another country, another culture, and you are trying to connect with them through English, right? So, for storytelling, it requires the support of the audience deeply, deeply. So, I'm very thankful to get that. Yeah.
Wow, ma'am. Lovely. So, ma'am, that was it from our side. If you want to add up anything or you want to tell anything.
Ah, I don't know. Oh, maybe I can just mention that, yeah, as a mother also, as a mother of two teenage boys, as a single mother of two teenage boys, I think storytelling has really been our connect, and it has helped us, despite ups and downs and so many things, find that warmth, find that space to whatever the geographic distance, whatever the situation, to still stay connected. I will give a lot of credit to storytelling. So yes, I would like to make that point about the role of storytelling in parenting, especially in today's times when there's so much multimedia, when it's nuclear families and it's double income families and everyone's in a rush, including the children's life is so jam packed with schedules. I would really urge for making time for telling stories as parents, and for being there to listen to the stories of the children, which will come when we tell our stories. So yeah, that's one point I would definitely push for, on, since we are speaking about storytelling. And yes, everyone, each one of us has the artist in us, different kinds of art, telling stories or magic or puppetry or origami or I don't know what. So I would just remind each one, those who are not exploring their artistic talents or any of their other talents, please go for it. We don't have to win the Olympics. We just have to express ourselves through these forms. And I'll end with one of my favorite quotations. It's a Chinese proverb that goes like this. It says, the forests would all be silent if only those birds sang that could sing perfectly.
Wow, ma'am, great.
Yeah.
Great, ma'am. I hope our audience had gained a lot of learning from today's session. And thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. I really enjoyed talking to you and hope we meet again. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Neha. Yeah, it was real fun, this interview. Okay, namaste.
Namaste, ma'am.